So thank you for the feedback on the video. The comments are really inspiring. And the takeaway after reading the feedback is collectively that we're a remarkable group aiming to get better, and that each of us has a past, present, and future which we can learn from. And our wish for you is exactly what we hold for ourselves, in that we learn from the past, live in the present, and are wise enough to create a future which leads to continued growth and inspired life. In the first video, we shared a story of a coach that may closely resemble a story in your past. They started to coach, they found a passion in it, they enjoyed seeing a light bulb go off in the people that they coach or teach, and then realizing that they had limitations which weren't easy to overcome. And not only were they not easy, in many cases the path to clear away the limitations seemed almost impossible. And in that difficulty, knowing how others either moved along into desk jobs or kind of gave up on their feet while still coaching in the passion that they had. We also talked about how that's normal, that work happiness and fulfillment comes through understanding and feeling progress, that progress itself is the key to happiness. So many are left looking at that fork in the road, wondering where that progress is, which is understandable. And it's amazing how common that feeling is. And think of how many coaches or teachers you know that go through that. And those comments allowed us to see how many of you are at places along that path of decision. So thank you again for leaving those or sending those along, and for speaking from your heart and from being open. And that awareness itself and willingness to look inside is a big step to moving forward for creating your own kind of new future reality. And we can't tell you how many people sent notes that say something like, hey, I tried out those 3 questions today and had the best practice we had in a really long time. And it's so great to hear that. We need to remember that coaching is actually a big picture career, but we often do get stuck in the short picture. So in our greatest moments, we inspire, we engage, we create ripples in people's lives. We connect people from where they are to their dreams and goals and aspirations. And in many ways, as funny as it sounds, to show the value, we're even recession-proof. Like during economic downturns, on average, the money spent on fitness and sport goes up, not down. So this engagement, this inspiration that you give is fundamental to your success, and that message you have should be held as a core belief. And the desire that you put into others getting better, what you bring to the practice or session every day, is more important than wins. Remembering and acting like that will always lead to the right way. So forget about the kind of inundation of news, and forget about the rumor mill, forget about the sky is falling scenarios. Your passion is the only message you need to listen to. Be aware of that other stuff. Don't stick your head in the sand, but listen to your passion. Let it drive you. It delivers the message that can change the lives of the people you impact, and of the lives of the people those people will impact in the future. With that, we even received comments from people who are coaching who remembered hearing these lessons over 8 years ago and are now passing them along to their own athletes. And that's what we're talking about. When you live in the passion of what you're giving, those ripples extend outward beyond what we can imagine, just like the ripples in a lake after a stone is dropped in. And those comments are great because if one of you is brave enough to write them, dozens or even hundreds are thinking it. So think back to the positive coach influences or teacher influences which may have driven you into the world of coaching or teaching. That was a ripple. And how can you make that ripple a bigger wave? Well, we can talk about that more later, but just consider if a few people live into the passion you give, the outward ripples last for a really long time. So in looking back to that fork in the road, one of the commenters said that they were coming to visit us to work through that inspiration because there was a fork in the road for them. And we all have those feelings. There isn't one of you out there who doesn't have some kind of obstacle. Everyone here can think of at least a few or even more than a few obstacles to their perceived best path of success, happiness, and fulfillment. You do have to do something though. It's easy to identify the obstacles, and we all know the reasons, those obstacles, that they can be overcome. And that's the truth you have to accept. Those who push through to a bigger impact, a bigger success, either redefine what success is for them or reframe the question or the obstacles themselves and refuse to accept them as a final truth. A great person once said, "The obstacle is the way." In other words, that obstacle becoming good enough to overcome that obstacle is truly the way to become good enough to be ready for and deserve the next path on the journey towards the life you impact or impact you seek. In other words, the obstacle itself is the journey preparing you. So look at those obstacles. They're trying to tell you something. Look at them closely. How are you using them? What are they revealing or showing you a ceiling or limit you're going to run into or already have run into in the future? And what are they showing you about what is really important to you? Oftentimes they show you a weakness or a path around whether you're ready to admit it or not. And the obstacle may even be there, dropped in unwillingly by you or unknowingly by you. You put it there to protect yourself, to keep you from becoming as big or impactful or influential as you can be, to keep you from the fear of failure. So, what happens when you get there? That you'll have to keep on giving at that level, and you're not sure you can do that. It is scary, but that growth, as we said before, that progress is truly what leads to happiness and fulfillment. And what a great example you give for others as well when you address that, to the people that you coach or teach, to your family, to your friends. And there's a world of opportunities, just ways to get around those obstacles. Interestingly, in a different venue, I recently read about a study done by one of the foremost battle strategists in history, where, in looking at the outcome of hundreds of battles, only 2% were won by frontal assaults or attacking the obstacle directly. 2%, and these are the best generals in history, like Napoleon and Rommel and Grant and so on. So what did they do? In a nutshell, they turned the obstacle into the way. So they utilized, say in these cases, a geographic obstacle on the battlefield as an asset. It may have been a mountain to traverse or a river to cross or some other barrier, but the obstacle, which limited traditional perspective, ended up being the path to winning. So looking back at you, I have a harsh reality for you. It's something I learned a long time ago, that people don't care about you once they stop going fast or stop winning or they stop getting better. And suspend your emotions for just a moment and hear me out. They may care about you if they get to know you, but do they care about your service or your teaching, etc.? Actually, they don't. They have to ask themselves and answer one question in looking at the value you add. Are they or their child better off if they make the decision to learn from you, to be taught or coached by you? And better off in this case is determined by what they're looking for. In some cases you can influence that, and in some you can't, but at its core, that's what they care about, what you bring to them. That's it. And we all do this. Think about it. They aren't bad people. All the things you decide to buy or allow in your life, or come back to that question. Will this add value to my life? Or will this add more value than the cost of time, money, or even progress? But know that what your learners and their families care about is that you create a remarkable learning experience for them. The experience, will they get better? Will they learn? And maybe even will they become better people? What experience can or do you offer? And as we said in the first video, what energy is required for you to do that and do it at your best? And that realization should create a new frame of reference for many of us. All of your interactions should be in reference to, what am I bringing today to this environment? That should permeate phone calls, emails, social media posts, even how you walk when you show up every day. All of it. Any interactions you have should come back to that. And when you think about that, you may have thought this already, but you can't be all things to all audiences. Pick what's important to you and run with it. Speak their language, be a beacon for their success, and have them look at you for showing them the path. And that is progress. That is the way. Identifying their desires and showing them a way that sounds and feels built just for them. How much more likely are they to follow you on a path to progress if it feels like you sculpted it or scripted it just for them? And although the act of truly identifying the match between you and your frame of leadership may not address some other obstacles you see as getting in the way of your progress, your growth, or happiness, it actually does. And for one, doing that, for many, is progress in itself. And we saw that in the comments from the video a couple days ago. But the other, and here's what's interesting, In many cases, that solidifying in what you are or who you are, or best said, what you bring to people, allows a much more clear eye to what's important to you, on where you should focus your time in the future. In other words, if you want to bring a bigger impact, you don't necessarily want to be a facility owner. You could, but being a facility owner could bring even more unhappiness and more disconnect, and often does. So the takeaway here is that you're going to focus yourself on what message you have to give and what you give to impart that message, what energy you bring. And in doing so, ask the same 3 questions for a couple days, but now within the framework of understanding of what true value you want to bring those people you interact with and impact. Is it really to make them faster or win more games? Maybe, but it's unlikely. For most, it's things like teaching people how to identify what they want to be in their life and showing them a framework through sport on how to meet their wildest dreams. And that's a lot more exciting than incremental sport improvement. And focusing on the impacts, you, the coach, focusing on the impact, will likely lead to an athlete's greater improvement in performance anyways, much more so than if your primary goal is purely on the X's and O's of winning. It's amazing really how that works out, and it's a lot more fun, and it lasts a lot longer. And one note, it may not be time to tell your athletes or the people you impact of this change in your perspective. As someone wiser than me once said, show me, don't tell me. So show them consistently, set it up through those 3 questions daily, bring the energy and show them, and focus on the primary aspects of impact that you resonate with. Be something specific with a specific message. It's more impacting that way, and people know what they're getting. It's comfortable, it's inspiring, it's relatable. And I could go into examples of this working, but I really don't need to. You know somewhere in your heart that this is the way. Small steps are the only way to climb a steep mountain. To get at the obstacle by defining yourself and do the small steps, the 3 questions framed in what's most important to you. Take a step in that direction. Keep the feedback coming. Stop being hidden. Play bigger. The more you take risks on putting yourself out there, even something as small as making a comment on a post or a video, the more you're preparing to face those obstacles. If you don't change, nothing changes. So do it 3 more days, and we'll add another video for you to take a look at.